These countries are calling us up, kissing my ass.
And if the United States wants to bully China, we will deal with the situation without the United States.
Vietnam Crypto Insights. This is Terrence, aka Big Poppy, here in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City, to be exact, otherwise known as Saigon. And I'm your host with the most, retail investor in crypto, 5 years. Welcome if it's your first time. Hope you enjoy. Well, let's deep dive right on in, man. We have a lot going on with the markets. Bitcoin has been bouncing all back and forth here the past week between 77,000 up until about 83,000. Ethereum dumped down into the upper 1400s and is right now hovering into the 1500s. I think it jumped up to about 1600 for a brief minute. But there's a lot of things going on. Of course, we've been dealing with Trump and his trade wars that he's been trying to start with all of the world, half of the world, even the Marshall Islands and some of the unknown places that there's not a lot of imports coming from to the U.S. There's a lot of market dynamics going on right now. One of the prominent Bitcoin proponents, Michael Saylor, and his company MicroStrategy, otherwise known as Strategy now, they're now facing scrutiny. Reports suggest that he might not be in a good position and he might have to sell some Bitcoin to be able to make his financial obligations. He's got a couple different preferred stock offerings and a lot of different things going on with his company. There was a recent thing that I just spoke about a couple weeks ago where he was offering a 10% dividend. Funny thing is he didn't buy the dip this time, even though the price went way down to 77,000. Michael Saylor didn't buy the dip, so a lot of people are speculating: is he in a pinch? Is the fund in a pinch? What's going on? So but Arthur Hayes, who's of BitMEX fame, of course, the big trading company out of Hong Kong, he's projecting a significant shift in monetary policy. He believes that lower interest rates are here to come, which would enhance Bitcoin's appeal because it's a deflationary asset. And a lot of companies are actually on the verge of being under financial strain right now with all the stuff that's going on with the markets and the tariffs and the threats of tariffs. And speaking of which, the traditional markets briefly, like the S&P 500 in the US, they recently plunged because the tariffs were on the cusp of being implemented across the world. The big ones that Trump was pronouncing, including a 46% tariff on Vietnam, little old Vietnam. Who would think that he would do that? But he backpedaled and the stocks went up and the market for crypto went back up the next day. And reaction to traditional equities highlights, what a broader macroeconomic factors can influence the crypto assets such as Bitcoin. And as commentator David Portnoy has pointed out, the correlation is something that's kind of like questioning the independence of Bitcoin and other digital assets. It's like, okay, if this is supposed to be such a great independent sovereign asset, why is there this big correlation? The retail used to be the centerpiece for the digital asset investors up until about 2020. But since the Wall Street guys taken over, they've actually been investing in Bitcoin, not as a deflationary hedge necessarily, but as a risk on asset, such as traditional tech stocks. So, but you know what? If Bitcoin is supposed to be its own thing, why does it move like the stock market? That could be it, but it's born to be a rebel against the system, but it's still following the same charts. So hopefully this financial turmoil will decouple this asset class at least briefly from the tech stock sector, because the tech sector has really been getting pummeled. Now, Arthur Hayes is projecting that altcoins are going to soon get on fire here once Bitcoin reaches a certain level. Now, he didn't say which level. Speaking of altcoins, man, we've gotten some news that the CBOE BZX exchange has filed to list the Canary SUI ETF, which would directly hold SUI tokens. Now, that potential listing of SUI ETF in a U.S. market, it marks a significant step towards mainstream accessibility for SUI and this particular token, which has actually been on fire the past year. Now, ETFs or exchange traded funds can provide traditional investors with a regulatory framework to invest safely and again exposure to cryptocurrencies. Now, another big thing is that asset manager Tariff Investment Advisors is set to launch an XRP based ETF. Now, this one actually is going to track the market of XRP, but it's going to be a leveraged long daily XRP ETF. So, investors will get 2 times the return of XRP, but they will have to pay a 1.85% management fee and annual expense ratio as well. So those 2 things are big for XRP and SUI. And other reports suggest that there's going to be some sort of shift in the regulatory framework with crypto in the US, with the possible dismantling of a dedicated crypto enforcement wing within the Department of Justice. And this focus might maybe reprioritize towards prosecuting malicious actors instead of just random cryptocurrency projects, which has been the aim of Gary Gensler prior to this administration taking this under helm, the current one in the U.S. rather. This potential shift is going to be probably viewed as a positive, and this reduced emphasis on strict enforcement of various crypto platforms that have been trying to just gain some sort of foothold of what's going on, how they proceed legitimately in the market in the U.S. They're not going to be the focus anymore, thank God. Certain altcoins are going to be highlighted as having a significant potential in this evolving landscape. However, this remains to be seen based upon overall market sentiment and manipulation. And it's critical to be aware that the manipulation does take on many forms. A recent report highlights the suspicious mathematical anomalies that were preceding the $3.5 billion cryptocurrency collapse with Terra Luna, Terra USD a couple years back, which actually triggered FTX's failings and BlockFi. It was like a domino effect, if you guys remember, if you were in this space a couple years back. But, this analysis suggests that potential market manipulation may have occurred prior to this Terra Luna event. More recently this week, the S&P and the crypto markets had a massive dip and a massive green day after Trump hit pause on some of the sweeping tariffs aimed at a variety of countries, including Vietnam, which had a 46% target on their back for imports coming from this country. Trump told everyone on a social media feed that it was a great time to buy right before announcing a pause on these tariffs. Of course, the pause didn't go into effect for the Chinese, which right now they have a 125% tariff on their products coming into the U.S. But a lot in the press and a lot of people in Washington are calling market manipulation on Trump's latest pause with his other tariffs. to add fuel to the fire, Trump was actively discussing monumental gains the day after with two notable figures in the financial world in the White House.
And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made 900 million. That's not bad.
I think this all serves us all as a reminder of who to watch, what to watch in this space, because you have to do a lot of due diligence. You also have to know about a lot of the potentially sophisticated and harmful activities that's going on within this space. And for all of those Trump fanboys out there, you got to ask yourself, is Trump in for Team Crypto, or is he all in for Team Trump? Speaking of all of this stuff that's going on with this market, I'd be remiss to neglect the elephant in the room and talk about the continued threats of tariffs and the tariffs that have actually just went into effect for China and their influence on the crypto market. Trade disputes and tariffs can impact a lot of confidence across multiple sectors, and that doesn't insulate us here in the crypto space. So, the US, which has paused most of the tariffs while increasing others, such as the one on China, to 125%, which actually China responded back with 125% tariff.
China!
It's a little dangerous for us because there's a lot of things that could happen. Of course, the markets are going to basically tank. There's not going to be a big demand for Chinese product, and China being the number one trading partner for the U.S. import market is actually, it doesn't bode well for the monetary situation in the U.S. I know the Asian community is not a monolith. I've been to 5 different countries other than Vietnam and Asia, and I know there's a lot of varying differences, but one of the things that I think that highlights the Asian continent is the dedication and the commitment to oneself and to the people within the region the people stick together, and hard times. Vietnam is coming upon the 50th anniversary of its independence here at the end of the month, and I watched a really interesting movie this past week. I think I'm gonna slaughter the name. Hopefully I don't. It's Dao. It's Tunnels in English. Definitely check it out if you get a chance. But it's in Vietnamese, English subtitles. But it talks about the struggle that the people in the tunnels had. Just highlights a group of people that were in one segment of the tunnels, 250 kilometers of tunnels that were dug outside of the city here in Ho Chi Minh City, and were used as a base for operations, highly sophisticated operations, and it ultimately was used as a to bring weapons into the city and to take over April 30th of 1975. But one of the things that was so intriguing and interesting about the movie was that there was a scene. There was one of the commanders that was actually caught, and they were trying to get some information from this Vietnamese commander, and he was like, "Look, you guys think that you could just bomb us into submission? No, we've got the resolve here." And I'm paraphrasing here. We've got the upper ground because we're committed to our people. This is our struggle. We're struggling for the people. I think the ultimate point is that, China and a lot of countries in Asia just have a more refined approach towards things. They build community. They like building country, family, societies more wholesome. And that's not to say that the U.S. doesn't, but the end result is just not there. So an argument could be that it doesn't.
Damn.
Anyway, to make a long story short and to wrap this up, China has built one of the most advanced countries in the world. They did it without bombing anybody, staging coups, assassinations, or blackmail, financial espionage, or sabotage. They've invaded no countries since, of course, they had some conflict back in 1979 with Vietnam. But, they've improved the lives of their people. And so has Vietnam over the past 50 years. So, I think all this hatred that's being spewed toward Vietnam and China is just non-productive. It's going to hurt the markets. It's going to cripple the U.S. markets, of course. I mean, hell, Apple was just flying in 5 plane loads of iPhones last week. I mean, they're basically nervous. Of course, Amazon's nervous. Walmart's nervous. They get all their products, the bulk of which come from China. So it's not a good thing. And I know that the U.S. politicians and elites like to spew hate for China. They tell us to hate China, but maybe we should be taking notes instead and lessons, because maybe the enemy is not China. Maybe it's not Vietnam. Maybe it's not socialism. Maybe it's not communism. Hell, a lot of people don't even know what communism is.
The man or woman who knows the least about communism is the man or woman who wants to know the least about communism.
Maybe the enemy is the people that's telling you who the enemy is. So, we need to get this straight because, this crypto industry is not really for politics, but politics does infiltrate the crypto realm. And, with the situation going on with this tariffs affecting us, it's really temporary for crypto. Crypto is going to rebound and it's going to recover. Temporarily, though, with these tariffs, as a lot of economists have been saying, though, the market in the U.S. is actually going to tank. Unfortunately, when the consumer sentiment dips, that's a clear sign of recession. So, unfortunately, the prospects of a recession are increasingly looking bad. Hasn't been this low since 70 years. And when it dipped last time, even remotely close to this level, the U.S. sentiment for consumers, it hit a recession in 1999 and also in 2008. So look for the Fed to kick in probably around this summer if this happens. And that will actually bode well for the crypto market and the market as a whole. But until then, I think we're going to have some rough roads to go. But I don't know. What's your thoughts? Please drop a comment in the comment section and definitely hit the like and subscribe button so I can keep bringing you analysis and the facts. Keep it coffee and crypto, and I'll talk to you next time.